Welcome to our Watch app course from Edgionics. My name is Brett, and in this lecture we're going to populate our picker view. So this is the picker that we're going to be adding some items to. What we want to do is add a few baseball stadiums into this picker. So for this particular scene, we have associated to it the class interface controller. So we can definitely add more scenes to our watch and associate other classes to them. So right now this is the class we're going to be working with. And what I'm going to do is create an array of items. So we're going to have some stadiums. So I'm just going to say stadium list, and I'll add a few strings in here for different stadiums. So I have Angel Stadium, AT&T Park, Chase Field, and I'll leave it at that for now. So one thing we need to do is create a connection into this interface controller from our picker view so we have access to it. And for that, I am going to open up the assistant editor. And what I want, so this is on manual right now, it's in the interface. I want to go to automatic and go into our implementation. And now what I'm going to do is click on the picker and control drag, so this will create a reference to it. So here I'll just do picker. So now I'm going to create a function that's going to handle all the loading of this picker. So for this, I'm just going to call it load stadiums. Now, unlike in an iOS app where with pickers and table views you have delegates that you can use, you would add those right up here, but we don't really have that inside of Watch app. You kind of have to build everything up by hand. It's a little bit more primitive of how things work. You just kind of loop through items and add them to pickers, or loop through items and add them to a table view. It's all very basic. So now we have our list, and down here is where we're going to load things. What I need to do is create a loop. So I'm going to have for, and I'll just do an S for stadiums in our stadium list. So here's where we're going to populate our picker items, and I am going to need an array to put each one of these in. So for this array, it's just going to be a var, and I'll call it picker items, and it's going to be of type WK picker item. So it's an array of those, and I'll initialize it, WK picker item, and now we have an array to put in our picker items. So the reason I'm creating this array is so that the items that I'm adding to it are going to be created specifically to add to a picker. So there's kind of a transfer going on. We're taking them out of the array, transferring them into a picker item array as picker items. Now they're going to be compatible with the picker and can be added into the picker. So I'm going to create an item. So here's where we're creating each new instance of a WK picker item. And from here, we're going to do a title. So title, and that's just going to be S. And next we can do an accessory image. And for this, I am going to create a WK image, and that is going to be image name, this one. And here I need to get just the image name that we have for our baseball, which is actually baseball. And if I go to our assets, this one here, so I don't have to worry about the .png, it's just use the name exactly as it is there. And let's see, we are down here. Another thing I'm going to do is we can use a caption, and I am just going to do stadium. Now for this, more than likely you would have a more complex object, a class, that you would have all the attributes to fill these in so that they're unique for each picker item. But here it's just a demonstration of how this works, so I don't really have all that right now, but hopefully it gives you an idea of how that would work. And then I'm going to append into this array our new picker items. So I think we have item. Now that array is filled, And I need to transfer it to the actual picker. So we have picker, set items, and then I can add in my picker items. You'll notice I'm using this set. I'm not assigning it to a property. It's actually this function call, and I'm passing in a parameter. You'll see that quite often in a Watch app where you're not assigning to the UI elements, assigning to a property of the UI element. You're actually calling a function and passing it in. Even with labels, I think it's set text, and you pass in the actual string. So now we have this load stadiums. We can put it inside of awake on context because it's pretty static. There's not really any changes. If there were changes and we want to reload it, we could go to will activate. And we're going to go ahead and give this a try now and see what happens. So I've got my 42 millimeter watch selected, and I'll run this. And there we go. So we have our items down here, and notice I'm just trying to scroll, but nothing's happening. So now what I need to do is click the actual stadium and give it focus, and now I can scroll and select different ones. And what I'm doing, I've got a trackpad, so it's a little different of how you scroll this. Just move 2 fingers up and down on the trackpad, and that will scroll. If you've got a magic mouse with the scroll wheel, that will scroll it as well. It needs to have focus though for it to scroll. And now I can click up here into the app, and I can scroll the main app view, so I'm not scrolling the picker anymore. There's a better way to designate that we're actually scrolling this, and that is to highlight it. So that's what I'm going to do. I've got my picker here. I'm going to go ahead and close the assistant editor and change a little bit on this picker. So we're using this list picker, kind of a basic one. I want focus style to be outline. And actually I'm going to do outline with caption since we do have that caption. This will make it a little easier for the user to tell that they do have it selected. Alright, so now you can see it's got this outline, and if I scroll in general, I'm scrolling the main scene. Now when I select, this happens. And scrolling only scrolls this area. And the stadium is actually changing for each of these, although you can't really see it. But a better demonstration of that is going to be to go ahead and append some numbers to this right here. So let me just create a var I equals 0 and I++. And then what I can do here is string I, and I believe that will work. So we'll get a unique value for each of our captions, and we can see they actually are changing with each item. So I'll select this, stadium 0, 1, 2. So the captions are just a little bit more metadata. If everything you want doesn't actually fit into the item down here, you can add a little bit more info about that item in this caption. But of course, it's a watch. It's meant for very quick viewing. So you have to be probably pretty creative in how you're going to do that so that the user can tell what's going on just with a quick glance of the item. Now we've got this accessory image, and we did see that. And if I don't use this accessory image, we just get our strings that are output into the app, which we're going to see now. And here we are. So I'll click in here to our picker, and notice how the alignment is also a little bit different. What I can do if I want just the image is to go with a content image, and I don't need to change anything. I can use that same image. And this image is quite big, but it's being scaled down correctly. Now one thing I'm going to have to do is click on this picker and change to a stack, because I just want images. So the images are going to stack on top of each other with no other kind of labeling in them. And here we are. But our captions are still there. So that's 2 ways to populate a picker. And you can see, I think the caption is more useful with the image where there's no labeling at all. And I think also it's a good idea to highlight these pickers so the user will have a good idea of they have focus and they can be scrolled, versus when they're outside of the picker and can scroll the main scene of the Watch app. So once again, this is what that will look like. Right now, I'm scrolling the main scene. The picker's not highlighted. Highlight the picker. Now it's being scrolled. I click out of it again up into the Watch app. Actually, I can't click. I'm going to remain focused there, but I can tap on something and drag and scroll the main scene. Now I'm outside of the picker, and when I scroll without dragging at all, just go ahead and scroll as usual, I'm scrolling the main scene. That behavior might be a little different on the actual watch device, but that's how it behaves inside of the simulator, so just something to be aware of when you're trying to get out of that picker view.